Hi everyone, and welcome to Pitango's Growth Academy. I'm Idit Muallem, a partner in Pitango's Growth Fund, and I'm excited to welcome you all to Part B of our Customer Success Special Edition. To those of you who have missed Part A, you will get a link to the recording of both parts at the end of this session. Today, we'll skip any introductions and jump right to the sessions. Our first speaker, Ronen, Head of Customer Success at Monday.com, is going to share with us how customer success evolves in a PLG company. Tom joined Monday.com almost 6 years ago and oversees all client-facing activities and all support operations. Tom previously served as a Naval Commanding Officer in the IDF and holds a bachelor's in Business Administration and Management from University of Haifa. Let's hear it from Tom.
Thank you, Idit. Welcome to the evolution of CS in a product-led growth company. I'm Tom Ronen, Head of Customer Success at Monday, as Idit so kindly introduced me. I'm originally from Tel Aviv, a New Yorker for the past 4 years. Big on sailing, basketball, and everything blues music. So you've come to listen to a bit more than just my own bio here. What we'll talk about today, we'll start with a quick intro about Monday.com, and then we'll dive into the actual content. We're going to review how product-led growths look like in early stage, mid-stage, and later stage companies. We'll start, as mentioned, with an intro about Monday. So Monday is a work operating system. It's a tool that allows you to manage all of your work in one place, centralize all of your team's data in one location to increase transparency, instantly connect with anybody in your own business, and integrate with your favorite apps, and no technical expertise required. We've been in quite rapid growth mode for the past 6 years or so at Monday.com, crossing $282 million in revenue, and for the past 3 years or so, expanding our global footprint, anywhere from Sydney to Tel Aviv, London, and all over the US, where we now have over 250 people. Our product can be used by literally any type of customer. We're used by over 200 different industries at over 190 different countries. And on this slide, you can see some of the logos that you probably are familiar with. All right. In terms of our CS organization, let's go over our customer base to begin with to understand how we've structured our customer success organization. We've got over 110,000 paying customers with over 10 users. And we have as well around over 600 customers that are paying more than $50,000 in ARR. Our CSM team that handles these larger customers are approximately 60 CSM strong. Our compensation model is a flat compensation with a smaller end-of-year bonus. And in terms of KPIs, the CSM organization oversees platform adoption as well as retention. In terms of how it's all structured, under our customer success organization, we have two main pillars. On the right side, you can see the customer experience pillar that is basically in charge of customer support, as well as multiple customer enablement programs such as our community, our webinar program, and our knowledge base. And on the left side, our customer success pillar, which consists of our client services, which takes care of customer implementation as well as professional services. And after the implementation, the customer is being handed over either to a scale customer success manager or to a high-touch customer success manager. In terms of our CS tech stack, we use our own tool, Monday.com, to power a lot of processes, and the data that comes into Monday flows from two main sources, either Salesforce, which is our true source of record for all of our customers, or through BigBrain, which houses all of our product information. And so Monday.com is a layer that powers processes on top of these two tools. A few other notable mentions are Looker, that helps us visualize information coming from our BigBrain database, Slack for day-to-day conversations, Guru, which is our wiki, Yesware, which powers all of our email campaigns, as well as Troops, that helps automate processes from Salesforce and Monday directly into Slack, Qualtrics for customer surveys, and Zendesk, which is our customer support ticketing system. All right, enough with Monday.com. Now let's dive into the evolution of CS in a product-led growth company. What is product-led growth? Well, if you'll Google it, product-led growth is a business methodology in which user acquisition, expansion, conversion, and retention are all driven primarily by the product. And so how does it really look like? Let's take the Monday.com example. This is our Plg funnel. We start with a visitor that may find an ad on any social media, or maybe they're driving the subway and seeing a Monday.com ad that they like. They would be funneled directly into a dedicated landing page that speaks to the pain that brought them to Monday. From there, they'll start a free trial. Through a customized onboarding flow, they'll start by inputting their details, letting us know what are their different pain points to help them along the journey to adopt the product. A customized onboarding flow will start and teach the end user how to use Monday and how to get the most value out of it. And this stage we call the initial activation of that first user that uses Monday.com. From there, that first user will invite other team members, and that will lead to full team adoption, and after that, to continuous value and potential expansion. So if the product does it all, why do we even need CS? Well, to put things in broad terms, CS is here to bridge product gaps. Losing a potential customer that's maybe is on a free trial or an existing customer is costly. And so you always need some sort of human assistance to help cover product gaps. These gaps will look different, and so your CS organization will look different as we go. Let's see how it actually looks like, and we'll dive into first the 3 main metrics that we must follow along our journey. The first metric is product complexity. This is not just one metric that you're going to take a look at and understand where we are. It's a combination of multiple metrics, qualitative and quantitative metrics that helps us understand our product complexity. Think NPS surveys, customer support tickets, user interviews, and such, but we must at every given time be able to assess how complex is our product in the eyes of our users. The second thing is the average contract value. How much does an average customer pay us on an annual recurring revenue basis? And the third is the total amount of customers that we have by segment. We'll take a look at these 3 metrics along our journey, from early stage to mid-stage to later stage. All right, starting with early stage, and the tagline here is really to create a scalable customer success infrastructure. Before we dive into actually how CS looks at this stage, it's super important to emphasize that CS in a PLG startup at the earlier stages may not directly own customer retention and expansion. And that can be quite new to us CS leaders who come in to do CS and focus mainly on customer retention. At the beginning, since the product itself is the main driver for expansion and retention, that whole side of the business may sit within the product team. And so customer success owns something completely different. We'll take a look at how that looks for an early stage startup right now. All right, so in terms of the different metrics that we have here, you'll notice that our product complexity is rather on the lower end, so the product should be at this point in time fairly simple. And so our average contract value per customer as well is quite low. We have a lot of customers that are paying us a small amount of money, and not so many customers that are paying us high amount of ARR. I want to focus on the fact that I have basically split the amount of customer metric into 3 different buckets. We've got customers that are paying us up to 10K ARR, customers that are paying anywhere between 10 to 50, and customers that are paying us 50K and above. Now, these thresholds may look different for your company as your average contract value may differ, but the important thing is that our first bucket, the up to 10K ARR, is one that we hold true, that we will not directly intervene or have any proactive intervention with our customers until a customer crosses that threshold. It's very tempting when your product may charge at the beginning around $500 a year. When you land your first customer that's paying you $3,000, it is very tempting to reach out to that customer and treat them as an enterprise customer, while in fact, at industry benchmark levels, they're paying you very low money, and it will be wrong to start to build a human-based approach on customers that are paying you just $3,000, as exciting as it may be. So in our case, early stage, a lot of customers that are paying us below 10K and not much else. And so how does our CS organization look like? On the left side, you'll see the main pillars. On the right side, you'll see the different team members and KPIs. And so for us, we'll start with creating our customer support operation. Customer support is the best pillar to help drive and bridge product gaps as users interact with some difficulties with your product. Customer support is a very scalable and easy to manage operation. And you'll see that in a product-led growth company, customer support does way more than just simple issue resolution. We're talking about helping your customers get to true value in a reactive sense. On top of the customer support side of things, we'll focus in on creating different self-serve programs that will help customers serve themselves. Again, a very scalable method to take customers from one point into ultimate value. I've highlighted here knowledge base, community, and a one-to-many programs. Think of multiple types of webinars that help customers self-serve, but at large scale. All of these 3 programs are ones that we've been leveraging at Monday.com since the early days, and they have scaled with us beautifully. The important thing and important tip I can give about creating these programs is to go deep as opposed to going wide. When you'll go wide and create a lot of resources for your customers to self-serve, you may miss the mark. You must create programs in which you, as a CS leader, can truly believe that a customer can take themselves from their activation into full value by leveraging just these programs. And so it's important that they will be of high quality. I've also noted here automated emails, which is a very useful tool to share with your customers how they can get help if they need to, or help bridge gaps along their customer journey. And the last and super important is the voice of the customer program. In order to continue analyzing your product complexity, you must at the early stage put in place the infrastructure to understand what your customers are telling you and what are the struggles that they interact. So consider using NPS surveys or tagging customer support tickets, doing user research interviews, and so on. These are extremely important tools to establish your voice of customer program, and there's really no earlier time to do so than day one when you have a CS person on the team. In terms of the folks that we have on our team at this stage, we've got our customer experience advocate, that is basically our customer support representative, and then 1 or 2 people that help power these different programs, a community manager, a person that's in charge of our knowledge base, and so on. In terms of KPIs, note that you don't see retention on the list right here. We're talking about customer satisfaction, different customer support metrics, and each program should have its own KPI to measure its success. All right, and so we've established the baseline, the base of the pyramid of our CS organization, and that basis will be the backbone of everything that we do moving forward that's client-facing. We mentioned all these different programs, our ever-improving product for our VOC, and that the fact that the folks that are in this side of our pyramid are measured purely on customer satisfaction. Moving on to mid-stage, and here the tagline is moving from reactive to proactive. Something will happen, something will change. Perhaps you'll add additional features to your product. Perhaps your existing customers will actually grow, or you may start looking upmarket, adding a sales team and creating some sort of a more enterprise motion on top of what you already have as your PLG motion. And so if we look at our different metrics here, product complexity will grow, average contract value will grow, and the blend of your customer base will evolve as well to not only having a lot of smaller customers, but you'll perhaps have some medium or very large customers as well coming in. And from the CS side, this is when these different metrics tell us that we need to take action. So let's see, what action do we actually take? It's not so straightforward to start hiring CSMs and do customer success. We need to understand where we want to apply that proactive motion. And a few steps in order to best analyze it, I'll go through right now. So we'll start with analyzing our customer journey. Leverage surveys, look at product data, run the detailed churn analysis, and compare different customer segments to understand where your customers are struggling. This is where we'll need to apply our CSMs. You also want to take a deeper look at your existing customer base and start segmenting more than just ARR. We want to look at growth potential, their business verticals, maybe the amount of products that they purchased. This is the first time to start and take a stab at defining customer health, as well as looking into how long these customers have been with us and in which step in their life cycle they're with us. We want to align with our sales counterparts, if at this point in time we have sales folks on the team, to understand what are their priorities and what are their KPIs that they're looking at, because CS will need to plug themselves into where sales are not. And so after doing all of this analysis, we'll need to pick the initial strategy of our proactive customer success motion. On the right side, perhaps we'll see that our smaller customer base is flourishing. In terms of medium and large customer base, that's not growing so much. And this is where we want to continue and to fine-tune our self-serve programs. Maybe on top of our PLG motion, we've managed to land a small or larger amount of really big, large enterprise customers, and a more high-touch motion needs to be in play. Or maybe we're growing traction with medium-sized customers, and then we can consider adding an implementation team, or maybe looking into a pooled CSM model on top of that implementation team. And so after picking our customer success strategy, it's time to hire our first CSM. My tip to you is not to overthink the prior slide, picking your strategy. Start hiring fast. It will take time. And the role of this first CSM is going to change dozens of times before they'll actually be in a very well-defined role. So don't overthink the profile that you should hire. Try to hire for a generalist, a person that can do implementation, that can do relationship building, that can even do sales. And so how does CS at the mid-stage look for us at Monday? I've mentioned that it can look in many different forms. I'll show you what we've done at Monday. So for us, the product complexity grew, our average contract value grew, the amount of smaller customers started to absolutely explode, and we've seen also quite a large uptick in the amount of medium customers. With large customers, not so much at this point. And so we started by applying CSMs where we needed them the most in our customer journey. We looked at implementation to begin with, and then more around the renewal time as well. And so we've started to hire our implementation specialist and then a pooled CSM model. Since our average contract value was more on the medium end, it made sense to have a customer success manager for something roughly to 1 in 200 customers. So the portfolios were rather large, and our CSMs post-implementation focused on ensuring renewals. We then started to look at CS tooling, and that combination of Salesforce and Monday that I spoke to at the beginning, that is when we started to create it. We started to measure customer health and define what is good, medium, and bad use of our product, as well as building our initial playbooks. And after when we got to about 5 CSMs, this is when we had our first CS Ops hire. And so we have now added our second portion to our CS pyramid, which is the proactive portion that's measured on retention. And that's for the first time. All right. Moving to the late stage, we're talking about taking our customer success organization into a more predictable CS motion. In terms of the different metrics that we're looking at, basically you're running on all cylinders at this point in time. We're seeing an influx of large customers, medium customers, smaller customers are coming in through your product-led growth motion. The product is now much more complex, and average contract value as well is rising to the sky. At this point in time, in terms of our CS organizations, we have clear roles and responsibilities across these different functions. We have now added a high-touch CSM, perhaps a renewal manager, and a professional services person on top of our implementation and scaled CSM. We're starting to look way deeper into health score analytics, as well as working on our playbook to be able to prove to our customers the return on investment with our solution. And our CS offering at this point in time should move from constant experimentation to the point where our customers can fully understand what it is that they can expect from their CSM. Okay, and voila. Our CS pyramid is now complete, taking us from self-serve, focus on customer satisfaction and issue resolution, all the way up to a low-touch motion that's for the first time taking care of retention, into more of a medium and high-touch customer success operation that's again looking at platform adoption and revenue renewal rate. Some final thoughts here. Remember, we started by building for scale. When you have a lot of customers coming in through the pipeline, you cannot start with your regular playbook of a one-to-one CSM. We leverage data to understand when to evolve, and we look at product complexity, average contract value, and customer segmentation to understand when that should happen. And we avoided duplication by having different teams take care of different KPIs and create clear roles and responsibilities along our customer success journey. And so we're leveraging that backbone of self-serve and adding on top of that customer success managers that can be proactive. Thank you. That's all for the evolution of CS in a PLG company.
Thank you, Tom. No doubt that PLG is on the rise, and it's amazing. We have a company like Monday in the ecosystem we're all learning so much from. I see that Yael is already waiting for Tom with some questions. Let's try to hear what they're talking about.
So finally, I meet you face to face. You've been my LinkedIn friend for quite some time. And listening to you, I was really curious to know, we all talk about traditional customer success KPIs. So who actually owns, the known retention rate number at a company, which is PLG?
It's quite a shift for a CS leader to come in and suddenly not own retention, but especially at the beginning, at the initial stage, retention is owned, I would say, mainly by the product. So the product should take care of retaining customers. If you've just logged in, you've gone through an onboarding experience, what stops you from just jumping out of the platform and dropping it completely? So the product itself, and in a way the entire company, marketing, sending the right messages, bringing in quality leads, and then the product would take care of the onboarding and activation and then expansion and retention. So I would say the main owner is the product, but it's definitely a team effort that's not solely sits on CS, at the beginning at least.
Yeah, no, it aligns with the philosophy of customer success being like a business methodology and everyone
Pretty much,
is involved. And so, flip side of that, customers, there is a lot of untapped potential and growth opportunities that, if you're only reactive, you may lose them. So what does a PLG company does to handle that?
Yeah, so I think the product itself, there are different ways where we can identify potential expansions and drive, let's say, exposure to different features that are more useful for a specific customer. If you'll only upgrade, you can untap that existing potential within the same product that you're using. So there's different PLG motions that you can do. We have a few growth teams within Monday.com that deals and have the product run these upsell motions, but at a certain point, like on Monday.com, as I presented, we brought in a sales team that looks into any customer with a lot of potential, and they would engage with this customer. And if they're successful, they will then move it on to a more high-touch customer success that owns retention, basically in their portfolio.
Got it. So you built a sales team that goes after existing customers above a certain threshold.
Yeah.
Got it. So last question, and out of curiosity, because it's very different than traditional CS ratios, right? Your customer success people and also support reps manage large portfolios.
Yeah.
How do you go about defining the ratios?
Yeah, so for the customer support part, it's really the amount of tickets a customer support person can handle, and then as that scales, as the amount of support tickets scales, you need to hire more people, and then there's all these kind of different operations that you can do to cut down and be a more efficient organization. With good segmentation, you realize kind of the right ratio. We definitely didn't get it right at the beginning. It's a lot of experimentation and figuring out, in a way, minimum effort to maximum value. And for that, where we landed is where we have some CSMs that manage around 250 customers. We use different triggers and tripwires, as they're called, perhaps in Gainsight for some of you that are familiar, with basically engaging with a customer when we need to. There's a lot of prioritization, so you need to know which customers you can just let be. Remember, you're a product-led growth company, and the product will take care of these customers well, while you can engage with the folks that need you the most. And then on the more higher touch, it's much more classic. We started out with $1 million per CSM, and then we're always trying to be more and more efficient and increase that ratio. Today, we sit around the $2.5 million that is managed by one high-touch customer success manager. It helps when your average contract
2x.
value grows as well.
Good.
Yeah.
And one last question, and I'm really curious to know, have you guys done something innovative around ROI calculation besides the traditional time equals money?
Yikes, yeah. So kind of getting to be able to describe ROI to a customer, that's a holy grail for us at SaaS, right? It's that never-ending sale, and to prove the ROI is super important. We are looking into the amount of time that our customers are saving in a platform that's as flexible as Monday, pretty similar to WalkMe, perhaps, as you're familiar with.
Yeah.
It's kind of how to define value from the back end. And so what we're looking at is data points such as generating reports and using automations and using communication within Monday, associating that with the time saved, and then rolling that up into kind of one metric. Yeah. I would say that on top of that quantitative analysis, there's a lot of interactions that our high-touch CSMs are doing right after the kickoff to try and understand what is ROI to the customer, and to collect different case studies that we are then able to present perhaps in an executive business review to say, Yael got this type of ROI, and Tom got this type of ROI, and here is a figure that we can start to have at least a conversation around in terms of time saving.
To trigger the talk. Yeah, got it. Super interesting. Thank you so much.
For sure, thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you, Tom and Yael. It's all about the relationships. But how do you build and maintain it with thousands of customers? And more importantly, how do you quantify and measure it? At what stage to focus the team on that? The customer success team at AppsFlyer has mapped over 5,000 meaningful relationships in the last year. I'm happy to invite Ziv Peled, Chief Customer Officer at AppsFlyer, a Pitango portfolio company, to share more about this fascinating framework. Ziv has more than 20 years of customer-facing experience. Ziv started his career working for telecommunication vendors, serving the biggest telecom operators globally, until he joined AppsFlyer as a senior customer success manager back in 2013. Soon after, he advanced to lead the team, which has since evolved into 300 people across 19 offices, including both customer success and support. Ziv was recently named as one of the top 25 customer success influencers on LinkedIn. Ziv, we can't wait to hear all about significant relationships.
Hi, I'm Ziv, and I'm the Chief Customer Officer at AppsFlyer, and I'm going to speak today about building significant relationships at scale. A bit about me. I'm a father of 3 boys under 11. I'm living in Kfar Saba. I was employee number 7 at AppsFlyer a little bit over 8 years ago, and my personal motto, I believe in work hard, be kind, and maximize relationships. If you want to contact me after this session, I'm available on LinkedIn. A little bit about AppsFlyer. We provide marketers with a platform that enables them to make the best marketing decisions. And about client services, we are a little bit over 300 people globally, and customer success above 230 people. So let's start speaking about building significant relationship at scale. First of all, our most valuable and impactful resource is a limited one, relationships. We should do our best to excel and optimize our significant relationships with our customers. Let's start at our customer success vision. First, our mission statement is listen, learn, and help customers achieve their desired outcomes while building long-term relationships. How did we get there? So we started a few years ago with this equation that I saw in one of the customer success exhibitions. We improved it a little bit, and in the end, if you look at that customer experience, multiple customer outcome is what's going to drive customer success. The customer outcome is everything that is value to customers. It's what customers are actually, the reason they even buy our solution. And the customer experience, I translate that to relationship, but it's comprised of so many different things. Let's look for a second on the pyramid of customer success. Everything is built on trust, and I'll present it in a second. Then when we already have trust with the customer, then we are providing value and then more and more value. This is in B2B SaaS, we need to continuously drive value to customers. And only after that, we have the ability to build and deepen relationships. If we go back to the CX, as I said, I translate that to relationships, but customer experience is built of the entire journey, and in the beginning, I built it in an equation, the marketing experience, and then the buying experience, and then the onboarding experience, the service experience, and then the product experience. It's much, much easier to view that on the customer journey. So if we look at that in the customer journey, I take here Walmart as an example of one of our best journeys with one of the enterprise customers using AppsFlyer. Then in the marketing experience, they started to read about us. They started to maybe ask some people about AppsFlyer, and then they get some marketing experience. There's no trust, no value, of course, no relationship. In the buying experience, they start to engage with our salespeople, maybe pre-sale. We are building trust. You can say we are building some superficial relationship, but not the relationship that I'm looking for. So then the next stage for us is, in some companies, maybe POCs, but for AppsFlyer, mainly sales. And then here, we're converting Walmart to start using us. This is the most crucial part. We have a lot of trust. They decided to buy AppsFlyer, but now it's on us to execute. It's on us to demonstrate the value. It's on us to deliver the value. And this is the onboarding stage where usually I say this is the honeymoon phase. What we'll do here, what we will deliver here, the success that we will bring here, that's what they are going to remember. And this is, as you can see in the triangle, we are starting to show some of the value here. If we were fully successful here, we showed a lot of value, and now it's our opportunity to start building relationships. And here we need to double down the work of the CSM, and I'll speak about it later as well. It's to identify, when we speak about enterprise customers, we speak about a lot of stakeholders, a lot of people that we are engaging with. In Walmart, we can engage with 50 people. We, in the end, need to engage, build a relationship with 5 to 6 significant relationships among Walmart. One of the key roles of the CSM is to identify who are those 5-6 people. And then later on, when we already built the relationship, now it's our opportunity to deepen it and also to identify advocates. So not everyone will be advocates. When we identify those, then we can definitely take it to the next level. Advocates helps us grow this account. They also help us grow other accounts, prospects, etc. So that was the journey. To summarize the role of the CSM, revenue is secondary. We're non-commercial. The CSM is a domain expert, and we need to know the customer very, very well. So also personal relationship, but we need to also know the customer and their needs, their KPIs, their challenges. If we build an amazing relationship with 1, 2, 3 people, probably we will also know the challenges that our customers have, and then we will have an amazing opportunity. A little bit about tools and processes. So this is the day of a usual B2B SaaS CSM, working with enterprise customers. We're interacting with so many different people internally in the company and externally with customers and partners. This is a nice view of our tech stack. I think that even a company that is now in the beginning of building the CS stack or building the CS department could take a lot of inspiration of that. I think we need to focus on what is that we must have this year. What do we need to develop? Maybe we need just an analyst and we don't need the platform this year, and then later next year we'll take a platform. For us, Salesforce is the database, is the source of truth. Looker is our BI. All the insights are there, and these are both tools for the entire department. And then we have a few technologies like Troops, Gong, that helps us get more insights into these databases. In the end, the role of the CSM is to do many different activities every day. The roles of my role and the role of leaders is to translate the company's SaaS metrics, growth, margin, net revenue retention, gross revenue retention, and to push it down to translate that to activities to CSMs. Now, looking a little bit about that, a little bit more focused about that, this is the journey. This is the customer journey, and this is how I look at that. So first of all, we have frameworks. We have 4 layers here for frameworks. Everything is built on relationships, so this is the first layer. Then a little bit more on the commercial side. We have pre-sales, CS qualified leads, CS qualified opportunities. Then we have more focus on the value, onboarding review, success outcomes, the QBRs, focused on the value. And the last thing is more, I'll say, renewal strategy. So also looking at the red flags, the negative parts, and also the positive parts of looking at the renewal, the upside renewal. On that, we have our KPIs. So the lagging KPIs, the GRR and NRR, the gross revenue retention and the net revenue retention. And on that, we have some leading indicators, the new businesses, the number of CS qualified opportunities, the revenue bridge, and then we have a lot of other measurements and metrics to be leading indicators for either revenue or value. Continuing on that point, in the end, B2B SaaS company goals looks at 3 areas. So we want to retain our customers, retain our revenue. We want to upsell and drive more revenue from existing customers. And of course, we want to drive more new customers, from new logos. And I listed a few of the activities that we're doing in each and every area. But let's start speak more about relationships. So continuing on the last point from the last part, the company goals are still upsell, retention, and new logos. Now, let's speak a little bit about the relationship value for those goals. So upsell, if we built an amazing relationship and if we understand this customer not only shared their KPIs with us, but also their challenges, then we are not only are able to upsell them, we're also able to work with the product team and to build new products that will generate more revenue in the future. So that's on the upsell side. On retention, if we have an amazing relationship into the account, probably we will know about risks sooner and we will be able to act on that earlier. And the last thing about new logos, that's the focus I spoke a bit before about advocacy. If we build better relationships, if we build deeper relationship, we drive more advocacy. These advocates helps us generate a lot more revenue. And I think that, everything that I'll say about relationships going forward, we need to remember that B2B is actually H2H. Everything in B2B SaaS, everything in the SaaS business becomes, even in enterprise, becomes more human. And our customers expect an account manager, a customer success manager, a solution architect, someone human on the other side to interact with, to understand them, to help them achieve their goals. Now, looking a little bit about relationship and each and every one of us as a person and why it's so hard to build and maintain relationships. So these relationships here that we look at on the personal side, we have our family, we have our close family, the second and third ring, we have friends, we have work friends, we have people that we know for many years. And then when you look at the work relationships, we have, first of all, as we work in bigger and bigger companies, we need to maintain a lot of more relationships in the company. And then we have our customers and our partners. And if I manage 5 or 7 or even 10 enterprise customers, then probably I will need to maintain a lot of relationships. And here, I want to introduce you to Dunbar. So Dunbar is a professor, an English professor that is researching relationships for over 20 years now. And he found out that the limbic brain has a limit. In the end, just like the CPU and the RAM in a computer, we have a limit of around 150 seats for our significant relationships among our family, close family, people we work with, our closest friends, and customers. So in the end, when I started around 2.5 years ago to work on the relationship framework, this was maybe the first thing that I thought about, is that how can we help customer success managers scale, broaden our limit of 150 to 250, 350 with some methodology, with some process, and maybe even a tool. And we built it all, and I'll show today a little bit of it. But in the end, first of all, you need to know your limit. Next, let's speak a little bit about relationships and what's driving it. So first of all, relationships are based on interactions. So there's an interest in any relationship, and there's intelligence. So we bring intelligence to the relationship. We need to have that intelligence in order to understand what should we do, what that relationship wants from us. And as I said before, it's all built on value. We always need to think about, when I'm focused on customer relationship, we need to think about what's in it for them, why they are speaking with us, why they want to interact with us again and again. And it's all about the experience. We need to wow the experience. Every time that we have the opportunity to wow the experience, it can be something small, like being very responsive. It can be something bigger, maybe delivering something that customer needs. And in the end, we need to make sure that we remember all these things together. So what's in it for them? What do we know about them? The intelligence part is a lot about what do we know about them? And we need to take into account always to think about the experience. Maya Angelou here with the amazing sentence about I've learned people will forget what you said to them and people will forget what you did for them, but people will always remember how you made them feel. And this is how it's connected to the onboarding, it's connected to remembering things about our customers. And we should always, when we think about relationships, when we think about customer experience, we need to take that sentence into account. And in Q4, we found an amazing validation into the frameworks and processes and tools that we already develop. Here we can show, and I cannot show all the data, so this is for public. I can show that you can see, as the CSM builds more significant relationships, the net revenue retention is improving, and it's improving by almost 60% from the accounts that we don't have any significant relationships to the accounts that we have more than 10. And also on NPS, we can see that on the total one, also on tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and 4, we see an amazing gap. But here on the total, we can definitely see that there's a gap of around 180% higher NPS when we have significant relationships. Key takeaways from my presentation today. One, experience is how we make people feel, and it's what they will remember. Know your capacity and increase it, and it's impactful. Thank you.
Thank you, Z, for sharing this inspiring and innovative approach. Welcome to our Customer Success Trends panel. Ziv, Yael, Tom, and Varda, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for the great presentations. I wanted to take the opportunity that you're all here together to hear your thoughts on some of the customer success trends that we're seeing. We'll start with a pretty painful one. Hiring will be fiercely competitive. It's true across the board, but even more so in customer success with the high burnout. And I would love to hear what you're doing in terms of employee retention, career path that you're offering, benefits. Please, Yael, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, gladly. So I think there are a couple of things, but it starts from my perspective that successful companies are companies with successful employees. So I think that every person on the CS and other teams needs to know what good looks like, so what they're going to be measured on and how that's going to evolve over time. Second thing is that people really need to know their trajectory. So you get into an organization, how can I elevate myself in the org? It can be that I grow into more senior position within the customer success org, or that I move to other functions in the company. We know that CS is a junction of many other disciplines within a company, so there are always paths to go to. Product, sales, maybe, right? Not only or necessarily growing vertically within the customer success organization. I'd also say that people need to know, it boils down, to core values of company and management, and giving people the opportunity to speak and share and show that they are contributing to the processes that the company is implementing. So you don't need to climb up the ladder of managerial positions to be able to contribute to the processes that we apply as an org. So people want to know that they're, impacting. So giving people the opportunity to make an impact. I've seen it working for me.
And it's, I couldn't, I just want to echo what Yael said. I think we've figured out a few digital tools that allow us in the age of remote work to help facilitate this growth, to see with your own eyes this type of either lateral growth to perhaps other departments within the company or within the CS ladder. When you're working from home and you don't see other employees so much, it's hard. So we, for example, created a website in which anybody in the company can see what other roles within the greater Monday organization are measured on, or the competencies that you need to be good at in order to be perhaps a good pre-sale engineer, or even in R&D, a developer. So that gave really good visibility, and folks, even from working from their office, from their homes, not from the office every day, were able to see how other sides of the organizations are measured and what it takes to make that move. Another kind of key thing here in terms of retention is creating a sense of belonging when we're all working remotely is quite difficult. So we need to be very intentional in terms of creating a good kind of team atmosphere, getting together. How often are we getting together in a physical way? How often do we get together via Zoom? And how effective these cadences are in creating that sense of belonging and that feeling that I care about this company that I work for, and I won't just hop to the next potential employer that offers me a couple more dollars. So that's a feeling that you have to foster and be creative about.
I agree that promotions and internal mobility are like key factors and really important in the customer success world. And this is something, we've been investing in. But I also think that, like, for me, CSM burnout is a topic that we've been starting to discuss more and more and think about ways to make their day-to-day more challenging within the role, even before promotions, even before internal mobility. How can we make them enjoy work as much as possible? So obviously the challenge of working with interesting product and in an environment that is rapidly changing, but also different types of initiatives that makes the CSM feel that they're always learning and evolving. So lunch and learn, guest speakers that we're bringing to different gatherings, giving them training, courses, people that will come and teach them things that not necessarily are directly related to customer success, but also fields that are touching customer success in a way, but they can feel them and learn them a bit deeper and understand if this is something that might be of an interest to them. But in general, like, enriching them all the time and keep the challenge always there.
That's interesting, and that brings me to a point that, Ziv, I think you've mentioned it a little bit in terms of the hiring profile, but also the soft skills and personality. You've mentioned the storyteller, and I would love to hear from you and from the others a little bit about that side of the hiring profile.
Yeah, so on hiring, I think it's really about finding amazing talents. I think that it starts from the process. So I think very important in the process is to really get them to some situation, presentation, so you can see that. You can start validate that there. I think we are on the more mature side. We are now hiring less junior and more senior people, so we want to validate that. And also connecting to some of the points that were said before, the day-to-day of the CSM is very hectic. It's very challenging, and we need to help them as well there. So I think that also the team leaders that we are promoting are there to support CSMs to be successful, and for us to be able to retain them longer. So we want to see customer success managers in the position more than 2 years, and it's a big challenge today. And it's also connected to other challenges of course, the market is boiling, and the compensation. I don't know if you want to touch that, but you can also touch that.
I think that also these days give us all the opportunity, not these days, but maybe unlike the Monday, there are companies that sell to a very specific buyer, right? I sell a very specific product to finance leaders, and it gives me the opportunity to bring talent from the outside. So I'm not only looking within the pool of customer success managers, I bring in financial, experts. I have controllers, I have CPAs that come and do the customer success job. So to a degree, we've expanded the pool of potential candidates. And I think that it's interesting for different companies that serve very specific use cases to bring those talents from the outside.
Right. So another function that we hear more and more about is customer success ops. Now, I know many of you have been working with that for a few years, but it's still not as common as sales ops and marketing ops. And with more and more tools now relevant in data for the customer success, I would love to hear from you. When is the right time to implement it? What are the projects and applications that you see for customer success ops, and where further can we leverage that function?
I would say that, I think customer success ops would be relevant after you have a team of 5-6 members. There are always tools to implement.
So early.
Yeah, there's always data to collect, dashboards to build, and at least for me, I feel that the areas of responsibility are always expanding, and there are more and more areas that we use customer success ops for. It's been making my life so much easier in the role compared to before I had that. And I think we've been able to be so much more effective and efficient in our work. Well, there's someone that really centralizes all the operational stuff. And again, the areas of responsibilities are always changing and evolving. I find myself involving the CS ops like in so many
It's like a special task force.
Projects and task force and implementations. And it's like ever evolving and growing, and it's been amazing.
So what is the profile for that, for the CSO?
We promoted someone within the team, so it's very easy because they already they knew the space, the different departments. It was a relatively easy process to teach them all the rest of the stuff, and they're mostly learning on the fly, whatever is needed. But you just need people that are very agile in their ability to learn new things and evolve and have some technical acumen, analytical acumen, and I think that would just work very well.
Yeah. I think CS Ops has a big challenge with Sales Ops, for example, or even with marketing. There's a clear kind of definition of success. Either you generate leads or you're closing deals. And with customer success operations, for example, for us on Monday, our holy grail is to drive adoption. What is adoption? How do we even measure that? And asking these difficult questions is something that we've only truly started to ask once we brought in that first customer success operations person. They help you as a leader kind of take on a much more process-oriented and structured way of looking at customer success. And I can say our first CS Ops person helped me a lot in terms of taking our organization to a much more scalable place. And the challenge is big because you're going to deal with, as Varda said, it's always growing, like what's under customer success and the responsibility there. And so it's not just a clear definition of success, there's a lot more. So the earlier you invest in customer success operations, the better. And the space is relatively young, so I think it's really exciting to see just the innovations around there. I think Ziv spoke about relationship management as a thing. That's something that we're creating from scratch. So the earlier, the better, because it's a true challenge. And as a leader, that function helps you a lot in terms of thinking in a very process-oriented way to lead to healthy scale.
How many people do you have in the customer success ops team?
In operations, we've got a team of, I think, 5 at the moment. We have, so there's, you ask about, the profile. So we've got analysts. These are folks that just analyze data, and they help us define, what data we need to look at as well. So they take a lot of ownership there. We've got folks that are very kind of process-driven. These will be people coming from industrial engineering background or any kind of like system admins of some sorts. They're really good in defining processes and looking at them in a very holistic way. And then we have, system admins of, anywhere from like Salesforce to other tools that we use. But it's a combination of very kind of process-driven folks that can define a process, as well as business analysts that can master any SQL query you can imagine. Yeah.
Great. So Yael, you don't have it yet at PayEm, but soon to come, right?
No, soon to come. Yeah, we definitely see the need, right? But I have a question to the forum. So what would be the ideal candidate if you don't promote from within? If you need one, right? You have one head
to
count.
start, an analyst. Always someone to look at the data, to show you maybe some of those insights. I completely agree with Varda. I think that as early as you see a team of 5, you need an analyst. And when you get to the first hyper growth point, then you need to invest in CS Ops heavily.
How many do you have?
18.
18. When did you start?
From China to San Francisco. Late, actually. Today I'm telling definitely different departments in different companies are telling them to start early, but we started maybe into the 4th year. So it was around 50 people in CS. We had the first person that drove that, and then the year after we really opened CS Ops with a leader from the outside, actually.
Does your customer success ops folks report up to you, or do they have their own independent kind of leader? To you? It's interesting. For us, it's different. We've got a business operations organization that then provides services to CS. So it's a long discussion we can have for ages, but
Yeah, we've had it at WalkMe.
Structure. I manage the CS Ops, but it's a metrics management to VP BizDev, and all the ops are like they're one unit.
Yeah. We had the same. So ops reported up to the CFO, right? VP ops to the CFO, and then they gave services to the different departments. Yeah, sales.
At WalkMe, you mean?
Yeah, at WalkMe.
Right. Thank you. So another trend that we're seeing is that customer marketing, is a real thing. And I'm not sure, Yael, you've experimented with that at WalkMe. At what type of companies, what stage, what are the goals for that?
So I think it really comes into play, and from my experience, right, when you're a sort of a lend and expend product. So you got your foot in the door, you have your success story, now you want to sell it internally to the customer. So not only the CSM will do the work, but you partner with marketing that do targeted campaigns that help you promote those success stories within the organization, and also based on the use case that help you to land that initial deal, you can promote different, additional use cases to the install base. And the value in it is that you double the forces that work on getting more out of the existing accounts. And also you bring talent from the outside. So customer success marketing, yes, do the same sometimes, but also have very different skill sets. And partnering up with marketing to do that really helps. And another side of that position is that you use, in a positive way, so use customers a lot for testimonials and references and promotions. And having a customer marketing person to orchestrate all of that really helps a lot. And today there are systems that help you to do that. We've done all that management in Salesforce, so our account marketing person was really an expert in managing all of that, creating the reports, creating the tracking, making sure that we send swag to customers that help, right? Do everything end to end. It drove a lot of value.
So it's under the CS, and what are the KPIs? And is it mainly to help bring back customers that have churned, or more for upsells?
So for churning customers, we had a different playbook. We interviewed our churned accounts. We used a third-party company to do the interviews because we wanted to learn, but we found that they don't necessarily share everything with us. So you sometimes use someone from the outside to do that. No, the customer marketing was, they have not had a proper KPI that I can point at, but at a broader scale, they were responsible for showing expansion pipeline from existing customers, so upselling, cross-selling.
It goes hand in hand with the change, I think, in sales strategies that are going after ABM, account-based marketing. Exactly the same as sales are more focused on ABM approach. I think also for customer success, this is a change in mindset that we've also been doing. So we're using customer marketing as I would say aerial support. So, a different channel that go through marketing in a lot of focused and targeted content to very targeted audience that will help expand the relationship and get maybe to other departments within the specific company. So it's really goes hand in hand with how the sales strategy changed and also being same implemented for customer success.
I can speak in Monday, for example, we use customer marketing to increase adoption. So we look at areas in the product that the user did not use and try to expose that user.
On all tiers to use it?
On all tiers, yeah. It's email marketing, it's automatic, it's extremely scalable, so it's very easy to do. Mm-hmm. So driving adoption this way, obviously it generates even more expansions when you expose somebody to a feature that, for example, I know that this person is in finance, there's a specific function within our platform, maybe in the higher tier that's more relevant for them, and we do see some revenue expansion from that. But we measure mostly adoption, and we see our product managers right now engage a lot with our customer marketing folks that also sit under CS to help expose new features that they develop to the user base. So we normally kind of relied on discoverability within the product, but more and more we see that users that use Monday, they are used to consuming content from their email or from their LinkedIn maybe, and so product managers can even leverage these tools and partner together with customer marketing to expose our existing user base to these features to drive adoption, and we see more usage in different areas of the platform because of that.
So obviously in PLG that is more natural to start from day one, but in the more traditional B2B SaaS companies where you need to prioritize and focus, when should they start? At what stage of ARR or customers?
I don't have a rule of thumb, but as long as budget allows, I think that it's a very strong function. It helps you to double down on the potential to increase, customers' revenues. It really pays off when it works well.
So I would like to touch a little bit on the business models, like the freemium and usage-based business models that, In the early days of SaaS, companies used to avoid that. Investors didn't like it so much, but obviously it's clear today that it's a great model. And I'm curious to see how you think it affects the nature of the customer success teams and goals.
Yeah, it's a challenging one. I think it's in customer success with a company. So, for example, Monday has a freemium tier as well. You have to be very focused and have really clear thresholds in terms of where you apply each customer success methodology. We can talk about different pool models where a CSM manages a wide amount of accounts, or a group of CSMs manage X amount of accounts, and usually it's quite high. We can have a more high-touch model, so one CSM managing, let's say, up to 30 customers and so on. These are different CS tools that you need to know where to apply in the best possible way. Taking a high-touch motion and applying that on free customers, it's just not going to work. It's kind of obvious, of course, but you need to have really clear guidelines in terms of when you use which CS tool when you're in a freemium model. You cannot risk that because the scale is extremely high. The amount of users that are coming in can be overwhelming, and so you need to be very clear in where and how you're using each CS methodology, and always kind of changing that, looking at your customer segmentation to understand what works and what doesn't, and to continue to basically become more efficient as a CS organization, to allow your CSM to manage more customers and more customers as the growth and the amount of customers is growing quite high. So that's something that you really need to double down on, in my opinion, to understand what tool goes to which type of customer segment, the amount of money they're paying you, their potential, and so on.
So, talking about customer marketing, I have to ask you, because all of you have mentioned in the presentation how important it is for the customer success team to understand the success KPIs of the customers. But I'm not sure I understand how you do it at scale and eventually not just do it for the strategic accounts.
Yeah, I think for us at Monday, we do that quite often. There's no better way to understand that than asking our customers. So at the beginning, when they sign up to our platform, we ask them, what are you trying to do with Monday? Tell us a bit more about yourself. And we see that customers gladly do so when they understand it will allow them to leverage more of what it is that we offer them. Templates are a really, really strong tool. If you are able to templatize your solution in no matter way, for Monday, it's pretty easy to templatize what it is that we offer. And then leveraging these templates, so creating a survey and asking all of your customer base, what are you trying to do with product X? And then matching different answers. Maybe you're even using machine learning to do so, but matching different answers to specific templates that customer Y found this successful, and with this specific answer, and matching that automatically. And then using customer marketing to kind of surface these insights is a very scalable and honestly easy thing that any CS leader can do.
I also have to say on the same note is that customers that come for, the freemium models, for instance, don't necessarily want to interact with the CSM that will now start to ask, why did you partner with us? What are you trying, no, I took the freemium offering for a reason, and then being able to get insights from the product and then close the loop with the product team and make sure that we implement it back to the offering is really important. Whereas where customers pay more, they also expect to get a different service, and then there is room for all those conversations around what does value mean to you, right? And how can we make sure you achieve that with our technology? So different segments actually want different things from the CS org.
We implement business desired outcomes this year. And I think that, for me, it's very, very focused. First, we need to make sure that we speak the customer language. So we're not saying these features or those features. We're understanding why the customer bought AppsFlyer. And then if we'll do that very well, then it can work for enterprise, can work for the long tail.
Great, thank you. So we talked a lot about how to help companies at the early growth stage, but to those companies that are more mature at the 40, 50 million ARR, targeting the 100 million milestone or an IPO, what advice would you give them, to better plan ahead and be prepared?
So for me, I think the focus will be they are in the growth. They are still in the triple. So I think that they will definitely go or should focus on the upsell indication or CS qualified leads. They already have a lot of existing customers. Now they need to understand how to grow it. And if they can do it together with product on one side and with the sales on the other side, then it will even be more efficient.
And we definitely hear today more and more about the importance of the connection between product and customer success.
I think the key is scale. So it's really important at that point to build processes and to build the entire CS operation to be very scalable. Less solutions that are tailored to specific clients, but more like product generic solutions that will reduce the need to constantly grow the headcount. So it's all about scale, how to build processes that can grow without growing the headcount.
Yeah. I'll also put a focus on hiring. It's a major thing. So think about the folks that you're bringing in today. Can they function as a team lead within a couple of years, 3 years, and so on? Are you bringing in today the folks that will become your product specialists, later down the line? So really kind of widening that scope of who it is that you're looking for, what is that profile, because you're going to need to leverage all of those folks that you've just brought in at this stage later down the line. So hiring for potential, I would say, it's a very, very important thing at this stage.
Yeah, and on this point, onboarding of employees, the question that I ask myself today is, assuming tomorrow I need to bring on board 50 additional customer success managers, do I know how to turn them into PayEm successful CSMs in 2 months? So what onboarding plan do I have from process, education, knowledge, everything that can help me create, fast onboarding and quick time to value from the headcount that we're bringing on board?
Thank you, everyone. It was a great discussion. Thank you for today, and I learned so much today and during the preparations, and I look forward to our session next year to see what are the new trends.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Idit.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nadav Lobel, VP Account Management at Riskified, a Pitango Growth portfolio company. I map Riskified as a core infrastructure product as it's running in the background, replacing manual processes, and it requires significant onboarding, which makes it very sticky. And in Riskified's case, there's also a very measurable ROI, so it makes a lot of sense why retention is very high. But still, retention is the main KPI in the company. So what are the retention challenges? And what shapes the focus and KPIs of the customer success group? Pay attention to Nadav's title, Account Management. That usually hints that there is probably a significant commercial aspect in it as well. I am making some serious assumptions here, and already can't wait to hear the full story. Allow me to introduce Nadav. As VP of Account Management at Riskify, Nadav manages the global accounts team responsible for Riskified's client success. Over the last 6 years, Nadav has built Riskified's account management team from the ground up. He previously served as an officer in an elite intelligence unit in the Israel Defense Force. He holds a BA in economics and psychology from Tel Aviv University. The floor is yours, Nadav.
Hi, Idit. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you, Pitango, for having me. I'll talk a bit from my experience growing the account management team here at Riskified. I hope some people will find this relevant. I'll be happy to kind of continue the conversation with anybody that does find it relevant afterwards, and I'll leave my email at the end. I'll just say it's great to be a part of this group. I think you have some great people speaking, some of which are friends and colleagues that I've learned from during my time. So thank you for including me, and I hope that some people will find this relevant. So let me dive right in. So just a quick overview of Riskified and kind of who we are. So Riskified works with some of the largest e-commerce companies in the world, and we help them increase conversions and reduce costs through a suite of our products. Our flagship product is our chargeback guarantee solution, through which we help customers increase sales and reduce the chargeback and fraud costs. So just to kind of give a bit of an overview of who we are today, and I won't kind of read through all of these numbers, but today we're a team of over 800 people across the globe. Obviously, very relevant to today's topic, we're extremely proud and happy with our very strong retention rates over the past several years. We work with many large publicly traded companies, and you can see some of the names that we work with here on the right. So, we work with companies like Wayfair and Wish and Ticketmaster, etc. So that's kind of a brief overview of just kind of who we are. So I guess, who are the account management team here in Riskified? Just to give a bit of an overview. So today, the account management team consists of 35 people globally, and we're looking forward to grow that substantially this year. as I mentioned, the type of service that we have with our clients is very much white glove type of service. We see ourselves as an extension of our clients, of our merchants. And I'll speak about what that means from what's the day-to-day look like for our account managers. But just from a numbers perspective, that does mean that the book of business that each account manager at Riskified could hold is in the millions of dollars in ARR. So that obviously means that we're very hyper-focused. It's a small ratio of number of accounts per account manager. And that influences, obviously, how much we invest in each one of our clients, how much time, etc. And I'm happy to kind of get into that a bit. We today have people across 5 different countries, planning to add local account management presence in an additional 2 to 3 countries this year as well. Kind of spoke about our retention rates, which we obviously extremely happy with in a competitive market. I'm not sure that I completely agree with Idit's intro, if things are easy or not easy. Some is, some isn't, but we'll get into that. I guess to kind of wrap this up, the account management team at Riskified, our mission statement is to deliver increase in value to our merchant. That's our mission statement. That's what we focused on. That's what we care about. And I'll try to talk through how we do that through a couple of important learnings and points in the life cycle of an account in Riskified. Just before we get there, I guess obviously it's important to kind of meet our clients as well and to get a bit of an understanding of who we're working with, so you can kind of see what, if anything, here is also relevant to your context. So if I'm trying to give a high-level overview of the clients that we work with at Riskified, we work with a lot of different departments in our client and our merchant side. We could be working with people from the finance side, from the technology side, from the operation side, and that varies. So that means that an account manager could find themselves working with a developer, with a product owner of the checkout flow for the merchant, and also with a finance person, obviously. So being able to manage a multi-threaded type of relationship with our clients is something that's important for us. That is a part of the position and how we build the team and what we care about in our kind of training and onboarding. To give a bit of color of what does a day-to-day look for us with our accounts, what are the type of things that we're working on with them. So since Riskified's solution is a mission critical piece of our clients' operation, right? We review transactions for them. Without Riskified, it's a crucial component in the online flow. That means that we are a part of many different important tasks, projects that happen on the client side. Just to give some examples, if there's a new product launch for our clients, we're going to be part of that project team. When clients are branching into new geographies, obviously we help them with that and can help them adapt and scale into those new geographies quickly. So we'd be part of that. Obviously, any kind of replatforming, etc. The variety is diverse of the type of projects and tasks that we might be working on. And at the key, what we most focus on with our clients is how we help them optimize conversions. We focused on our ROI, the value that we deliver in them, and I'll also speak about that. Okay, so I hope that was a bit of helpful context, just kind of who we are, who we're working with, and a bit of our journey. It did ask me to kind of highlight a couple of important learnings and things that I put focus on that I think might be applicable to others. The first one I want to talk about is the importance of good onboarding and what are the things that we pay attention to during client onboarding, given our experience. So obviously we all know there's no real second chances for first impressions. Like any good relationship, when you think about it, the onboarding of a new client, obviously that's, a key kind of turning page in a new relationship, and we want to do that well. The 4 elements that I keep in mind here and that I think we've learned about are, 1, how do we do the onboarding with the people on the other side as good as possible? Within that, obviously, we're working with the people on the other side. There's nothing more important than our clients and who they are and how we help them. Within that, what we've learned obviously is extremely important is the handovers that we have with sales. If you think about it, typically, obviously, there's a long relationship with the sales team until it gets over to the account management team. What we've done over time is really invested a lot in the type of handovers that we have between the sales team to the account management team. What we strive for is basically for it to be a flawless transition from the client's perspective. So although there's kind of new faces and people, we invest a lot to make sure that we have the information that we've learned about the clients, what they care about, what's their goals, etc., and the metrics from the sales into the account management team. Second one is on the integration. I'm not sure how deep I'll get here. Riskified's product specifically is a very deep type of technology product. That means that the integration with us is an intimate type of integration. That also means that for large accounts, sometimes, there's an element of customizing the integration, obviously. To those of you in the audience that find that, applicable to your world, you probably know that means that sometimes, there might be kind of a V2 that you leave for the integration post go live. What we pay attention to is obviously there's a lot of different owners in the integration. Mostly there's going to be technical teams, your sales engineers, integrations, etc. At the end of the day, from an account management perspective, we view the ownership on the integration as kind of the last safety net. We have to know what are items that we could enhance in the integration as kind of a V2 post going live. So although there's a lot of different teams involved, at the end of the day, we see the account management team as the ultimate owner. And how we do that to enhance integrations post go live is just an example of that. The next thing I thought is worth highlighting is, the tools and the demo. So obviously, during an onboarding, anybody will tell you about the importance of a demo of your UI to your clients, how you do the demo well, how you get them, understanding of what the functionalities are to drive future adoption and usage of your product. Very important. We also obviously have, demos of our UI. There's a breadth of knowledge and statistics that clients can kind of take out of Riskified's UI. A part of the functionalities and going through all that, what we pay attention to is how we use the product demo as an additional discovery. And although there's been, a long sales cycle with discovery, etc., we see the demo as a great opportunity to ask questions from the client. So as we go, for example, as we go through, reporting of statistics, it's important for us to learn, okay, these are the metrics that you can kind of gouge from our product. Let's align on the metrics that you cover in. Where do you measure them today? We'll talk about reporting functionalities and we'll say, okay, who's going to look into these reportings? Who cares about which aspects of the reportings in your company? And so on and so forth. Obviously, you'll kind of tie the connections to what's relevant to you guys. But we see that as an important kind of discovery point within the onboarding. Last one, on the business side, right? So at the end of the day, a very good onboarding to us is an onboarding that we've also really learned what the client cares about from a business perspective. What are their current goals? Just like what are they focused on? Obviously, there's the reason why they're using us, and you guys will kind of attribute to your world. But in addition to that, we want to just understand, okay, what's top of mind right now? I'll try to explain that through a specific example. So for Riskify, just to give some context, so as I said, with our core product, we review transactions for fraud and approve more transactions than the client would have approved without us. So that's terrific. Through the onboarding, as an example, some things that would be interesting for us to uncover are what are important client segments that the client might be focusing on right now. So for example, they might be branching out to a new geography that right now is kind of important for them to penetrate. They might be, focus on different, margin profile products within their portfolio. They might be focused on a specific product that they've launched recently. From our side, we have the ability to be very tailored in kind of how we maximizing the performance in the segments that they care about. So obviously, for us, a good onboarding is to uncover those additional goals that they might be focused on right now. And instead of just, focusing on what's the local optimization, the global, not local. What's the global optimization that, we're solving for them? We also want to get very localized and understand, okay, what do they care about? The more we understand their current business goals and we can adapt what we do and to be specific for them, in our mind, obviously that's a bit onboarding. So those are kind of a few of the pillars that we focused on during the onboarding. A lot else goes into it, but those are some learnings. Secondly, from my conversation with Idit, we wanted to highlight the importance and maybe also challenges in communicating the ROI to our customers. So Riskified's product and service, is very ROI driven. As I said at the top, we increase sales for our customers, can approve more transactions than they would have without Riskified, and also reduce their costs. And how do we quantify that and show and align on that with our clients is obviously key. When I'm kind of thinking about it, obviously, there's so many KPIs, so many metrics that are so important for all of us. We want to make sure that, we're speaking with the right people, that we have a strong champion, that we multi-threaded within the client's organization, that we have executive engagement, that our product has great, usage and adoption and people logging in. Whatever you guys might be focused more on, you can kind of complete that. So many things. On top of everything, really, we are focused religiously on the ROI that we provide to our clients. All those things are important that I mentioned, but on top of that, in our mind, we are held accountable to the ROI that we deliver to our clients. When that's done, tremendously well, the value is there, the client will be happy, and we can, only progress and expand with them. To give some context to some of maybe the learnings and thoughts that I have on this, I want to take a moment to explain my world. What does the ROI look like with Riskified, so you guys have the context? So very simply put, before Riskified, a client might be declining transactions for fraud reasons, for bank declines, etc. Riskified is able to increase sales by approving more transactions, by approving transactions that the client might have been blocking completely, and also able to reduce costs from operational costs and chargeback costs. So that's kind of what builds the ROI for Riskified. Obviously, when being presented to the client, we get very specific with numbers, which I'm not kind of going to show here today. So what are my thoughts around, how to communicate the ROI well, and what are the things that kind of we've learned and been focused on? So I guess one is, obviously who we communicate in the ROI with, what you kind of see over time, especially for companies working, on large accounts, like the environment that we work in. You might be communicating the ROI with your champion, and that might be terrific. That is obviously key and important, but it's also always interesting and important to understand how are the finance teams on the client side evaluating your ROI. You'll see obviously different perceptions from different people. So part of what we try to uncover over our conversations with our clients is to really understand that. So we try to meet as many people, as I mentioned on the previous slide, from different departments in our clients. And part of those conversations does revolve around, communicating the value that we quantify, and as I mentioned, and then, aligning with them and seeing that they see the value and getting feedback where needed. When? So kind of on timing. Timing is obviously important context. So once kind of, going live with a new product, the ROI is obviously you always want to kind of compare the, previous state to the current state. And over time, the context changes, right? So when I'm kind of communicating and reviewing performance, 1 year after going live, it might be different than what we kind of will focus on 6 years after going live or 7 years after going live. And over time, we strive for, and as I mentioned at the top, this is kind of the mission statement also of my team, to deliver increase in value. So to see how we can kind of show what's changed over the years and how we improving over the years. What have we expanded to together? What projects have we worked on together? How has the ROI changed? So just the context of the timing really has to frame what do you focus on the ROI? What are the ROI templates and pointers that you kind of coach the team to look for and communicate to your clients is very context and timing dependent. The one of the areas that I think we've probably really invested a lot in is documentation. We have very good databases that track the performance metrics and data that we collect from our clients during the sales cycle to really hold ourselves accountable to quantify the value that we deliver into our merchants. As I said, we think that that's extremely important. And we expect our clients to hold us accountable for that. And as such, we hold ourselves accountable to that, meaning that we have, we've built alerting systems for that internally, dashboards, etc. So good documentation of what, the previous state was before going live, and then what the state is over time of your product is very important. I think in the early stages, it's very easy to kind of just like write things into, handover documents and what have you. But we've also found the importance to really create a, structured database that, gathers that information. Last thing, I think, if I'm kind of looking back a bit, where we've kind of been able to be adaptive and learn as much as obviously from our clients. At the end of the day, finding the right client advocates and our strongest champions to just have these type of conversations with has really, taught us important learnings. For example, what do they value in the ROI and how are they kind of seeing the value of the partnership? You'd be surprised what you might hear, and just kind of adjusting that as we go to include different value adds that they focused on more than what we might have thought is important. So finding those right kind of client advocates in your client base that you can learn from, have open conversations with, has been extremely important for us. That's kind of a brief overview, and looking forward to having some, questions. If any of this was helpful and you guys would like to continue the conversation, I'll be happy to be in touch. My email's right here. And Idit and the Pitango team, thank you again for having me. Great to be here.
Thank you, Nadav, for this great and detailed presentation and for sharing everything so openly with us. Let's move on to a few questions. Because of the nature of the account management team and handling such strategic accounts, I'm curious to understand what is the hiring profile you're looking for, and how does the onboarding process look like?
Yeah, good question. I view in general, the hiring process as one of the most important things that I invest time in, and any manager on my team. So that means, that we try to change the hiring process over time and be iterative, but also we just, invest a lot of our time and schedule during the week to look for the right candidates and screen them. What we look for are, a lot of things, but two things stand out. One, the clients that we work with are people that are very analytical forward. They understand kind of, concepts in data science, and that's what our product is, and that's where the conversation surrounds. So we're looking for people that are going to be analytical. They're going to be comfortable in that area. We're not looking for data scientists. We're looking for people that can understand those concepts and explain them well and feel comfortable within that. To do that, we've developed quite a few tasks, analytical tasks that are weaved into our hiring process. And that's kind of just a box that you have to check. We have to have that as part of our hiring process. Secondly, obviously the commercial notion, responsibility within the team is extremely important. And as I mentioned, we manage in big accounts that are complicated. There's a multi-threaded type of environment and context to manage from a business perspective. So we're looking for people, obviously, that strive in that have business acumen and experience, somebody that's a people's person. At the end of the day, that's obviously important. So those are the two main things that we look for. And the hiring process in general just has been very iterative, I'd say, over time.
Great. And is there something specific you can share or recommend for the onboarding process?
So our onboarding, I'd say, takes, roughly somewhere around 90 days to probably get kind of really up and running and familiarized. There's a few different components that we've built over time to our onboarding. So some of that is online e-courses that we've developed internally. That obviously came in a bit later in our cycle, right? Like whatever you can do hands-on, that's great. But, to scale that, we've definitely invested in creating online courses. Secondly, obviously just on-the-job training is kind of a second important pillar within our onboarding. So just shadowing other people, obviously there's nothing second to that. I will give a shout out to Gong that I think are also, here on the forum and panel, and listening to other, experiences from other clients is obviously important and a great tool to use during onboarding as well.
Yes, we even use it in the due diligence. And another question I have is around the efforts that you're doing to engage with the customers. I mean, it's a lot about the personal relationships that you're building, but is there room for automation, for customer marketing with such strategic accounts?
That's a good question. Obviously, there is a place for automation, and we do have webinars and events that we can, go out in mass to our client base, and we do. That said, we do lean much more on account-based marketing for our existing client base because of the size and nature of our clients. So being, as customized as possible is kind of worth it, and we invest a lot in those type of events. I think from a marketing perspective to existing clients, one of the greatest things that I think we're happy that we've implemented is our client conference, our merchant summit. We call it Ascend. We started it 5 years ago, and this year is going to be the 5th annual merchant summit. And that's an opportunity to bring in our top clients together in person for a few days to learn about trends in the industry, mostly, just for them to speak with each other. It's a great platform to have fun and connect. We started that just, by trial and error, and we were a bit smaller by just, inviting a smaller group cohort of customers. We got great feedback, and we just kind of really doubled down on that. So I'd say for people with similar size of accounts, etc., that was a great initiative that we implemented a few years ago, and we're happy with.
So now with COVID and the shift to Zoom, obviously no conferences, but were there maybe advantages to that, more frequent engagement with the customers?
Yeah, so we did have, by the way, 1 year that was an online conference like everybody else, obviously, but we are back in person. And in general, client interactions during COVID, obviously that was a big impact. Personally, to be honest, one of the most important things is obviously FaceTime with our clients. Nothing will replace that. We invest a lot in just being on site with our clients. We learn so much from any time that we spend with them. And, we can just serve them so much better after each kind of face-to-face interaction. Obviously, that took a hit during the pandemic. So personally, I'm extremely excited to be back face-to-face with our clients and being able to travel again. That said, there are great advantages that we've had from everybody just really adopting Zoom FaceTime, right? And if you think about it, it means that it's a bit easier to reach people. If we kind of had to invest to kind of go and meet people face to face, people are much more open to taking, these conference calls, etc. And you might be easier to kind of get executive to executive relationships. So that is, I think, one plus that we've all kind of been able to leverage through this. Secondly, honestly, there's something just personal, right? I'm sure everybody has the same experience. My 2 daughters have been on my Zoom calls, I don't know how many times, but, on the other side, that's the same thing. Before the pandemic, I never kind of got to meet our clients, in their home environment. And they're somewhat very personal and nice to just kind of meet people in that environment. So there are some things that, I think we've been able to benefit from everybody adopting, Zoom calls much more easily. But obviously, I'm happy to be back on site.
Great. Thank you again, Nadav. It was really great having you with us.
Thank you for having me.
In our next session, Gali Kedar, Chief Customer Officer at Sisense, is going to cover one of the most important tasks of a customer success leader, which is building the right CSM compensation plans. Preparing for this session, I realized that unlike in sales, for CSM, there is no standardized incentive model to compensate the team. It depends a lot on the product offering and the stage of the growth, and as the company matures, it becomes more complex with the addition of new products, upsell and cross-sell opportunities, further focus on growing the net dollar retention, serving various tiers, etc. Don't worry, Gali will cover all of that and more. Gali leads the Sisense customer success organization, owning customer relationships, their journey, and growth. Gali is also a board advisor at ActiveFence and a lecturer at modern companies and universities such as Reichman University. She has over 20 years of experience in technology companies, charged with a wide variety of responsibilities. Previously, she led strategic partnerships at AOL and managed the online threat managed service business unit at RSA. With 7x growth under her leadership, Gali is customer-obsessed, servicing and regularly engaging with thousands of customers. Gali holds a BA and an MBA and graduated both with honors. Gali, please.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today and share a little bit about myself, about customer success, and about Sisense. So I am Gali, and I am the Chief Customer Officer at Sisense. I am married to Yaniv, who is also coming from the high-tech world, who is a founder and a CEO of a company. We have 3 beautiful kids, Libby, who is 14 years old, Oad, who is 11, and Noi, 5 years old. Throughout my career, I worked in different high-tech companies, always in roles of partners, customers, and business technological roles. Currently, I work for Sisense as the Chief Customer Officer. What it means is that I own the revenue, the entire revenue of the company, which is over 140 million in ARR. And I manage over 200 employees globally in complex environment and complex integrations, as this is our product, which I will elaborate in a few slides. So I'll start with our mission. And this mission was built exactly 7 years ago when I joined Sisense. And I think what I like about this mission, that although it's kind of old, 7 years ago, it's very relevant also for today. That's the beauty about mission. And the mission is partner to delight our customer while maximizing their value and success, helping them achieve strong ongoing ROI. What does it mean? Partner to delight is mean the way we believe that we should approach our customers is in partnership manner. It means that we strive to achieve win-win collaboration. The way we do it is we try to delight them and make sure that we both success together. The value and the success is also crucial. Why it's crucial? Because the way to get value is to first drive adoption. Make sure that our customers use our product. That's when they get value. That's when they want to renew and even grow with us. So a little bit about Sisense customers. So we have over 200 customers globally spread. Obviously, majority are in the US, but definitely globally, as we have different branches around the globe, whether it is in Japan, in Australia, in Singapore, in different countries in Europe, Israel, and so on. Our average deal size is 60K yearly. And our sweet spot, as I call it, our best customers is those that are strategic, meaning that we are going up market to more larger customers and customers that use us in an integrated way, in an embedded way. Our best buyer is the CPO, the Chief Product Officer company, where they want strategically to add an analytics platform to their offering. That's what Sisense is doing. We are an infusion analytics everywhere. It means that we want to be part of a product and be the embedded analytics layer on that product. We have 3 main layers of our customers. Tier 1, as we call it, the strategic customers. That's our most important customers. That's where we put most of our focus. These customers are paying us the highest, over 100K. And obviously, the resources that we assign are higher, meaning that, for example, a CSM will maintain or own lower amount of customers under the strategic tier versus the other tiers. So the other 2 tiers are the corp tier, the middle tier, and the third tier, as we call it, the SMB tier, is the low touch. It's those customers that are paying us less and usually are less complex. But the moment a deal is signed, we, customer success, take ownership on the account and full responsibility. That's where we immediately send a welcome email to our customers, explain them about the upcoming journey that they will go through. That's where we start the kickoff process, and right after that, we start the onboarding process. The onboarding process at Sisense is a pretty long one because it's about integrating and embedding our product into another product. Usually, on average, it will take between 4 to 6 months. We make sure that on top of the license, we add to the deal a service layer. So we add an onboarding package to this phase to make sure that we take hand in hand our customer and ensure their success. So typically, as I mentioned, after 4 to 6 months, they will start seeing the first value. That's where we expect them to go live, to be in production with the first use case, embedding Sisense into their product. But as I mentioned on our mission, it has to be an ongoing value. So even if now they are happy, they see value, they adopt Sisense, the end-in-end holding of our customers will continue throughout the entire journey and even for years. So on the main phase, post-onboarding, we will make sure to build with them the next use case and make sure that they use Sisense in even more advanced ways. Throughout this journey, there are two typical milestones that I would like you to be aware of. First one is the CSAT. CSAT, Customer Satisfaction Survey, is being sent automatically to our customers after 3 months, after 9 months. We make sure it will be totally automatic and objective. And in critical timeline, 3 months, that's the time where we expect them to be in the middle of the integrations of the first phase. 9 months, right towards the renewal point. So we want to make sure that they are indeed happy and are planning to renew with us. Second milestone I would like to share with you is the EBR, Executive Business Review. We make sure to meet with our customers at least twice a year, usually after 6 months and towards the end of the year. And EBR is a strategic milestone. EBR is when we want to stop the day-to-day work, invite the exec level from both sides, from Sisense and from the customer end, and make sure that we talk strategically about the partnership. That's the point where we ask how we are doing against the success plan that we defined at the beginning of the journey. Do we meet our joint goals? How do we want to elaborate and enhance the partnership? What do we want to change? What is not working well that we can change together? That's one of the critical points of being a strategic partnership with our customers. When I spoke with Idit and we thought, okay, who is the target audience I'm speaking to? And I realized that it's for probably more less mature companies who are building their customer success function. I thought, okay, what tips? What are the 4 tips that I can give them that can help them once they start thinking and strategizing about their CS journey? So here are my tips. The first one, whatever you're seeing now at Sisense, which looks like, I hope that you see it as mature, it takes time. It was not built in one day. And in fact, we defined for each of our quarters, yearly and so on, we defined targets and goals that we want to achieve. It took some time. But the tips I would like to give is first about the people. It's all about the people. If there's one thing I will never compromise on, is about the people. The second one is about the infrastructure. As mentioned, it was not built in one day. It takes time, but I will say the infrastructure is something important to start and building right from the first phases of your CS organization. My third tip is about you cannot manage what you cannot measure. We've heard about that sentence for many years, but this is true. You need to measure what is important for you. So although I'm Sisense, I'm not trying to sell you Sisense BI. I will say you need a BI tool. You need a way to measure what is important for you. Me, I have dashboard of so many things, and the key things for me is about the churn, the satisfaction, and the growth. For my leaders reporting to me, it's going to be more specific dashboards, but they measure what can lead them to success. I truly believe in that and encourage you to do so. My fourth tip is about focus. As I mentioned, nothing was built in one day. It takes time. And in order to build everything and be successful, you need to focus. So at the beginning, you want to do everything, but you cannot do everything. So The first challenge is to say what you are not focusing right now, what you are giving up at this point, and you will get to it in a quarter or two or in a year. Then, on the things you want to focus, define 3, 4 KPIs, the main one that will measure your focus. Define the 3, 4 programs that you will focus on this quarter, and you want to achieve them. This, when you're focused in this focus mindset, I believe you will be successful. At the beginning for us, it was the CSAT, the customer training, the customer journey, the onboarding. It took time, but every time we defined the most important project, 3, 4 projects, and we execute them. That's how we built what we achieved. So another topic I do want to elaborate a little bit more is about the Csm Compensation Plan. This one, again, is I've shown you a full-blown organization chart of CS. Now I'm only referring to the CSM, the business unit of CS. So we have, as I mentioned, always up to 3 to 4 KPIs. So the 3 and 4 KPIs of CSM today for Sisense is the first one, and the main one is the net renewal. 65% of the CSM comp plan is about measuring the renewal and the growth of our customers, which today, for companies who are looking to IPO, this seems to be the second most important KPI after growth. So you'd better focus on that if you're a growing company. Second one, CSAT. I think I've discussed that in length. So we measure CSAT. This specific one is not only on customer success, but the entire management. So think about VP R&D who is measured on CSAT. It means there is higher chances for me to collaborate with that person. The third bucket of our compensation plan is what we call as adoption and proactiveness KPIs. These are focus area that we would like our CSM to focus on. So for example, the past year, we've introduced a new KPIs called early renewal. We realized that the early we secure a renewal, the earlier we flag the risk, the earlier we can control our destiny and improve our churn numbers. So we defined a very strict KPIs, which means that if now we are on Q1, at January 1st of Q1, 60% of that quarter was already closed won or closed lost in Q4. It means that we are very proactive and we start everything early. So if you can look at this chart, you can see the impact of defining these KPIs as part of our CSM comp plan. Look at the jump of how much more we secured renewals earlier. And it's not only just the early renewal, the overall churn numbers were highly improved thanks to that measurement. We also have SPIFs for our customers, for our CSM. So we define it on a quarterly basis, and we always define between 5 to 6 SPIFs. That these are the focus area of our CSM. I will go into our specific, but I will say that it's always where we want them to be focused on. One thing I do want to mention, again, correlating to what I mentioned earlier, Rome was not built in one day. Same here. We had an evolution of our CSM comp plan. So at the beginning, several years ago, we did not start with the KPIs I've shown you earlier. We started just refocusing on the growth churn. And CSQL was customer sales qualified lead, was something that we just wanted to have a first mindset around growth, but we wanted our CSM back then to focus just on securing renewals. So that was the main KPIs, and the CSQL was just a point, a preliminary lead to our sales. Then we changed that and we add 2 goals about growth churn in dollars and upsells in dollars. Then the third evolution was what I just described. a little bit more about the collaborations, because I know that there is always a debate, the R&R between the CSM and the sales. What I believe in and what we are doing at Sisense is CSM owns the relationship with the customers. It means that the CSM owns a successful adoption of Sisense for the customer. It also means that the CSMs need to build strong relationship with a champion, up to a level where he can speak with a champion to have a discussion about how we can grow together. Give me some leads of other units that we can grow and penetrate with Sisense. Going to the AE, to the sales, I expect the sales side of things to take these leads and turn them into a real opportunity, closed-won opportunities. I also expect the sales to be the hunter within existing customers. So areas where I don't have a CSM end relationship, I expect the AE to go and hunt and find new champions, new execs that can potentially work with Sisense. These can be upsell opportunities. I think this is it. I hope I was able to provide you some kind of value, and I do want to wish you tons of luck as you start your CS journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Gali. Such a complex topics with still a lot of room for creativity. And in this opportunity, Gali, I would like to thank you for joining us during your last month at Sisense. Can't wait to hear what you're up to next, and lots of good luck. This concludes Part B of our special edition. Thank you for joining us, and thank you again to all of our speakers. I truly value your commitment and contribution in creating this dedicated content for our academy, which I'm sure will help so many in our ecosystem. I personally learned a lot, and I'm already very curious to see how much further the customer success function will continue to evolve. Thank you all for staying with us, and please stay tuned for updates on the upcoming topics in our Growth Academy 2022. Please feel free to reach out to anyone on our team. Our emails are on the website, and we would love to be in touch.